You've slaved over your mix for days, weeks, maybe even months, trying to match it perfectly to your references. And you got it loud enough, but as you're flipping back and forth, you feel that your mix is dull, flat, lifeless, maybe even lacking punch. And what you think is that you have to step up your compression game, but maybe you're stuck because you've incorporated parallel compression, you've incorporated transient designers, and still can't figure out what's going on. Well, today I want to discuss listening and working with envelopes versus impact. And we're going to talk about how we can use compressors and also soft clippers to help create the punch and clarity that we need in a mix. So let's hop inside the DAW and talk about it. First, let's start with a listening example. And I want you to fix your ear on the snare drum. That's going to be the easiest thing to use to detect the differences. And I want you to tell me which one you feel has more punch and clarity. In my opinion, the second example has exponentially more punch and clarity, especially in the snare drum. I've listened to lots of interviews, read lots of articles, and I've heard different things being said over time. You hear some beat makers saying how they just can't get the punch in any other DAW they get in FL Studios. You've heard Jason Joshua talk about how he feels there's magic in his Lavery Gold converters. Andrew Sheps had said similar things. Andy Wallace, Chris Lord-Alge talk about how driving hotter into their consoles provides tone. And it really made me think, in a lot of my mixes, I might be relying too much on compression and not understanding that a lot of the punch and density in records that we've loved over time have been from the essential misuse of headroom. Not the gross misuse of it where we're just completely blowing things up and distorting them. But understanding where we can use the lack of headroom to our advantage in terms of weight and density. When we talk about a mix feeling like it has weight, we think weight is just like low frequency management. And weight isn't just low frequency management. Weight starts with proper fundamental energy in your lows and mids, meaning the bottom of your snare drum, the bottom of your kick, the bottom of your bass. But then you also need three other things. You need harmonic support, whether it's even or odd harmonics to help increase density and the instrument's clarity, especially on small speakers. Also, the envelope shape of your transients and your instruments in general. And that's really where compression and today's lesson kind of comes in. Because for today, I want you to think of compressors as envelope managers, where compression impacts the sound over time. The last thing is contrast. Contrast of your surrounding elements. That's what's going to help your mix feel like it has some weight. So weight doesn't come from just like boosting lows. It comes from controlling peaks, from the sustain and harmonic content and the relationships that these instruments have to themselves inside your mix. So that got me thinking, how can I create some punch and impact without overusing compression? And I immediately went to ding, 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 soft clipping. For those of you unfamiliar with soft clipping or still a little confused, we can think of soft clipping and compare it to hard clipping. Think of a ceiling. As a peak or a spike from a transient approaches that ceiling in a soft clipping setting, it starts to bend and saturate the top. For hard clipping, it just essentially cuts off what goes above it and almost fills it in with like a blip of like distortion. So soft clipping can really help introduce some phenomenal nonlinear behavior, but also really increase the density, where when we think about a snare drum feeding into a compressor, right? The compressor is essentially asking about attack and release. So, hey, when do you want me to grab onto that snare drum? And once I do grab onto it, how long do you want me to hold onto it? Essentially, the compressor is manipulating the envelope of that snare drum. But now if we think of that same snare drum running hot into, say, a channel strip or a soft clipper, instead of the whole envelope being manipulated, instead, you're really kind of just pushing down or saturating that top peak, bringing that peak closer to the body, which makes things feel a little bit more dense. So you can get a much more punchy, but yet natural representation of whatever transient that we're discussing. So that's something that I got thinking is, hey, we can get some punch and some density, changing a relationship of peak to body. And then from there, for emotional content, we can use our compressors to say shape the length or the sustain of what it is or the glue. So those listening examples that I had set up were pretty simple. For the session, it was just a vocal. We had some drums, bass, and a couple guitars. And the only thing that I was manipulating in this was the kick out and the snare. For the kick out, I actually put both chains on the same channel. For the snare, I actually created two different channels just to be able to toggle back. Then the drums met up in a drum bus, and the manipulation of headroom bus was a Satson SSL channel strip, which I was running hot into. And then the orange clip, I wanted to experiment with different soft clippers. And then for the more analog bus, it was the SSL G bus that I was using here. You could see I was trying to let transient through, so I wasn't trying to do anything to trick myself, prove a point, or manipulate. This is me experimenting in real time and coming to you and sharing my findings and saying, hey, you guys try this and get back to me and let's see if we're onto something here. With that also underneath, something pretty typical, right? For drum processing, which was a Studer. So the drums were either hitting this chain right here of SSL into a soft clipper, or it was hitting the SSL G bus into the tape. And then everybody, including the instruments, which had no additional processing for either example, we met up, and this is a traditional kind of back-end processor on a lot of my Sheen bus, which is the gold clip, I believe emulating like a Lavry Gold, into a Pro L where I had to do a big boost to just get level up, but pretty standard stuff here, not doing anything to try to manipulate. For the more analog bus, it was the API 2500 set up almost exactly how I have my real unit set up that sits on the front of my Vibe bus. So again, letting a lot of attack through and not going crazy. That into a Pro L, which again was a boost for level, and also letting more transient through than I did on the punchy bus. Just again, to try to be, really fair and not to create any sense of manipulation of the findings. Now, one thing to note with setting up the session, I was trying to do it in the most authentic way possible, which is not to ask one stage of the process to absorb all the, say, the headroom misusage, or say the area where we're really asking a soft clipper to do a lot of work. So we pick some up on the track itself as if we were driving hard into our individual channels. Then we add just a little bit on the drum bus collecting, and with that we were only getting about 1 dB at its highest, 1.7 dB at its highest of soft clip reduction, and finally meeting up in the mix bus where again the clip we're getting about 2 dB of clipping at its highest, or say most unruly transient. Nowhere down the line are we asking one component to do all of the heavy lifting, because that's when you tend to get a lot of artifacts in your music or tend to hear a lot of issues.
I can't do this alone.
So with that said, let me show you what I've begun experimenting with when it comes to soft clipping and soft clipping processing. And we'll start first on the snare drum. Now, what I did, I was using the MV2 and a soft clipper. The MV2, I'm only using upward compression in the low end. So essentially trying to fill out and level the shell of the snare drum, the thump, right? The thud. And then I was using the soft clipper in, soft clip mode here to kind of trim the top of that transient. See how it brings that drum a little more forward and also into focus? And I wasn't really doing much. I mean, literally just lighting up just a tip.
What? Oh, just the tip.
Of the snare peaks. And a soft clipper is an amazing tool. You could use it to saturate vocals, bass guitars. you can get pretty wild and experimental with soft clipping. And that's why I'm really starting to fall in love with this tool. But most of the time when I see people talking about it, where is it always? It's always, hey, here's how you get your mix loud. Throw a soft clipper on it, on your mastering and limiting and things like that. And to me, I see this as peak management. So when I'm looking at my sound sources and I'm saying, do I want to compress it? What I'm now starting to ask myself is, do I want to manipulate the envelope of the sound source? Do I need to lengthen out that snare drum, get it to connect more in the beat because it feels like it's passing by too quick? Then I might reach for a compressor. But do I need to control the peak of the drum? Do I want to make the drum feel a little bit more dense? And that's the way I'm working now, using upward compression into a soft clipper. Now let's listen to the compressed snare drum. Now, quick side by side. So you could hear with the compressed that the transient is still kind of pokey. So we haven't really kind of impacted the length of the, say, transient, tip of the transient to the body, and the shell isn't exploding. That's where we're kind of getting some of the smear or some of the change in envelope. With the compressed drum, we have the C3, and then I just put a top boost, which would be, this would again be pretty typical, right? Like some compression, letting the transient through, and then kind of lengthening the body just a little bit, and then putting a little bit of that stick definition, a little bit of air on the drum. Now, when we're playing through, we can see we're not even really compressing all that much. Under 3 decibels of compression, but yet the drum feels more squeezed than the soft clip. So let me show you another way to do this. If we go to the kick out, now, instead of using the MV2 again, I'll show you how you can do this with a Pro MB. If you take the range and you boost it up above the 0, you're now into upward compression. For your threshold, if you have it set outside of where it is, it'll keep pushing up. Now, what you want to do is you want to find the strong area, that low fundamental that we're talking about, and stabilize it with upward compression. Hear how it tightens the punch of it up a little bit and kind of levels out that bottom. So every time we hear that drum hit, the low energy of it is kind of sustaining at the same level. And then when we bring the soft clipper in, it tightens the whole drum up. Now let's compare that to a typical, I mean, this is, the late great Bob Powers, low end trick that so many amazing engineers have used. It's a DBX 160 VU and a Pultec. It's a nice sound and it works, but yet it still feels woolly to me. So let's compare the two. Here is the DBX and the Pultec. There's more impact on the transient. And that's what we're looking for when we're talking about weight and we're talking about punch and we're talking about sending things downstream. We're not going to be putting too much stress on our compressors or our limiters that we have down on our mix bus, asking them to basically do all of our transient management. And that is really, really important when we're talking about density of a mix. So this is something recently that I've really been playing with and have started to incorporate into my workflow as a way to do less with compression and EQ, because essentially what kind of led me to this decision was as I was listening to, so we'll come out of this and let's listen to the analog one again. A lot of times with the analog, I thought when I was hearing that and that smearing that I'm getting from the different compressor envelopes interacting with each other, I thought it was an EQ thing. So I'd start reaching for an EQ and start overly thinning out my low mids thinking, oh, well, there's something blocking my snare drum. And really what it was just a relationship of the peak to the body. But yet I was trying to treat that relationship by using something that controls more of the envelope of what's going on, kind of working against myself and blurring out the snare. Now, the analog path, if anybody writes to me and says, hey, that analog path, it sounds great. Yeah, it does, because a lot of records have been made this way. But sometimes when we're talking about needing more punch or needing to have to compress a mix more for volume purposes, the clipping seems to kind of do a better job helping impact in real time and yet keeping things from feeling kind of overly blurry or overly smooth. What I want to wrap up with today is thinking about, say, the 4 controls of mixing. And the first is envelope, right? We could argue that a great mix is basically a bunch of choreographed envelopes dancing together. Do we need the transient to poke through more and the body to shorten so that it kind of feels like it's like beeping in the mix and kind of punching forward then receding? And that's where we use compressors. The second mix control that we have is impact. And now I'm starting to lean a little bit on soft clipping, but not mix and master bus soft clipping, but rather thinking about it as the manipulation of headroom and using the soft clipper to bring down, say, the headroom of a kick or a snare and close that peak to body. The third thing that we have is EQ, and that's tone. And see, I was misusing EQ. I was asking my EQ to bail out compression smear and then wondering why my mix sounded hollow, thin, lacking weight. And the last control we have is balance, and that's our faders. That's placement. So when we're thinking about envelope, impact, tone, and placement, we really have the 4 horsemen of a phenomenal mix. One thing I will say that I see people debate about is I see some people say, oh, once you use a soft clipper, add a transient designer to help put the transients back in. And some people lose their mind. They say, are you out of your mind? Like,
what are you thinking?
You just took the transient down to create headroom, and now you're adding the transient back in, you're defeating the purpose. And then other people say, no, absolutely, because if you misuse soft clipping, you kill your transients. Here's what I'm going to say in the most diplomatic fashion. Both are true. What I would say is if you do use transient designers with your soft clipping, don't go over the top, don't overboost, or else you will start removing your headroom and essentially just kind of undoing what you were doing. And if you're trying to decide between, do I use a soft clipper or do I use a compressor, ask yourself, am I trying to manage the peak relationship of this instrument, or am I trying to manage its emotional content or its envelope? If I'm trying to get something to feel like it's living and breathing inside the music in an emotional way, that's where I lean on compression. But if I just want something to feel very punchy and very dense, that's where now I'm starting to go to soft clipping. Drop me your thoughts in the comments below. Would love to know how you use soft clipping, what you find are the pros and cons of it, if there's soft clippers you like to use, and when you feel that you've been failed by your use of compression. Okay, my friends, I'll see you next time. Take care.